The deck of many things. What a magic item. What a wild ride that thing can be. Hey everyone, welcome back to the DM side. It's been a while, and today I'm coming to you from some random apartment where I'm house sitting a dog who's having a nap under the table back there. So, and I also have these fancy new little DJI mics I'm testing out with this video as well. So hopefully all the audio is clean and crisp. And I love holding onto it like a little microphone. But for the sake of what I need to show you, I'm actually going to pop this here. So let's do that. All right, so what are we looking at today? Today I want to show you, I just got a copy of, finally, because it was delayed so long because of a manufacturing error, the Book of Many Things. It's a fancy book. It's very, very nice. And I've only flicked through this a little bit. So far, I really like what I'm seeing. It's broken up into nice 3 chapters. It's going to help your DMs when you're building things. There's your character options, and then there's your monsters, there's your enemies. It's actually probably one of my favorite books. I like the books that supply a lot of information for everybody. The thing that I want to show you today, and I'll get to the cards, is actually what came with the special edition, which is this. Ooh, the deck of many things. Now, look, this paper thing is actually really kind of terrible. It's a bit cheap, putting it back on. You gotta line it up perfectly and sort of stretch it, and I don't like it. So I'm not gonna put it back in there now, but let's see if I open this the right way. You get, da-da-da-da. Yes, I did open it the right way. You've got your deck of many things card guide. And the thing that I want to point this out to everyone really is I think this is so valuable. I actually love this. I've already looked through it entirely. It was the first thing I looked through apart from the cards, and I think it's incredible. Speaking of the cards, when they made their manufacturing error, they actually gave you a box when you bought the product, which gave you brand new cards that have been corrected. So I actually haven't taken these out of the sleeves. These are sleeves. The plastic wrapping, these are actually the fixed version of them. There's like glare. And just give me a second, I will get for you the ones that I got actually in that box when I originally opened it. Hang on. Ooh, cards. And these are all of them. And you know what? When I looked at the issues that were said to have been happening with the manufacturing, I think I lucked out actually. I got a pretty good set. So if you look at those, and if it doesn't focus on my face, one of the big issues was some of the cards were like the wrong size, whereas mine are all at least cut the right size. The next issue was that some of the cards were fraying at the top, and my cards, I got pretty lucky. I think it's the sun or the stars for me. There is one in particular that is fraying a little bit, and the gold trimming doesn't look that great. But the fact that I actually have to find it out of all the cards that I've got, I think I got pretty lucky with both of my decks. And then the only other thing that I'm really noticing, I guess that's sort of fraying as well. The only thing that I'm actually really noticing with these in particular is one of the decks is bending in a certain way. So you can see that it's got, just on this side, they're concaving, convexing, they're going in the wrong direction. And so another issue with the manufacturing was the fact that that was happening with the decks, and so they were taking a while to sort of mold and lay flat on the table. A lot of little issues, some bigger than others, some not, that actually added up so much that they had to basically delay the whole release. But I got pretty lucky, and so what I've realized is I've now got a display copy with my fresh real ones, and I have a player copy, so I can give all these out to my players when we're actually playing our games, and that is sort of the intended purpose of these. The artwork is incredible. I'll put some overlay video of the artwork, and I think the cards themselves actually look really cool. So let's get back to this card reference guide. Why do I think it's so great? Why am I raging on about it so much that I've sat down to make a video? Well, not only does it give you this wonderful view of the artwork and a description of what could happen when you pull these cards, At the very start, the very thing that caught my eye, and I'm all about things that are going to make DMing easier for me, was the actual spreads that they had. So what you can actually do is you can lay out a spread and build an adventure out of that. And I think this is something that is going to help DMs really early on. And I don't know if they're selling this as a separate thing because it's not on D&D Beyond. So when you buy the book, when you purchase this on D&D Beyond, as far as I'm aware, you don't get the card guide. And that's a bit of a shame because it's a really incredible product. And I'm actually going to run through, we're probably going to have to move some things in the room and where I am. I'm going to run through a bit of a card reading. The very first thing that they have is your first card reading. You could pick out one card. Any player could do that at the start of any adventuring day, and all of a sudden you could kind of just riff off of that and talk about it. So if we find the void, not only do we have a little description about it, so you've got here, an endless void seems to spiral toward a central hole that devours all. This card spells disaster. You could play this any way you want. This is the best part about these actual cards, is though there's an upright meaning and a reversed meaning, and it talks about a person, a creature, a place, a treasure, or a situation, you could also just, in the single card reading, tailor it to your adventure. You could talk to your players and say, there's ruin in your future, you feel this pit of despair, something is coming that is unexpected, that they might be planning to assault a tower, they might be planning to try and gain information from someone that might not favor them too much. Think about where their current session is about to go at the beginning of their adventuring day and have it tailor into that. You could even make it that they draw a card once a session, so that way if your game is going over multiple different rest periods, you don't actually have to worry about giving this in-depth card reading over 3 consecutive days of travel where nothing of interest is actually happening. So you could even have a card pull, and even though they pull the void card physically in real life, you could say that the card that they pulled was blank. And that's because the day itself has nothing of interest that's going to happen. And it's just we adventure for the next day, we rest, and we continue on. There's a simple 3-card ruling as well, reading, which is going to help open up your adventuring day into something that could happen. You draw 3 cards, and then this would open up into something like a person that they would meet, a place where they would go, and a creature, a task, a situation, a problem, or even a bit of treasure they might find along the way. I think this is a good way to start with a one-shot. Basically, you get your players all together, you pull 3 cards as the DM, you look at the meaning inside of the book, and then you can build from there. Now, it does open up into a larger 5-card reading, and this could build a really detailed one-shot, a short campaign over 3 weeks, 3 sessions, 5 weeks, whatever. Or if you really want to, you could take the ideas of the cards and push them into a whole campaign. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop down into having a look at the cards, and I'm going to show you the 5-card reading and tell you how I would interpret this. So I've basically gone and shuffled the deck. I have mixed up all the cards, but here's the thing. There are both readings for when a card is face up in the correct orientation, but also should it come out upside down in the reverse. So we need to make sure that some of our cards can be reversed. And so what I like to do is I cut it in half, I reverse it, and then I start to give it a bit of a shuffle. And then I go about halfway, cut it in half, mix it around, give it another bit of a shuffle. Luckily, I've got 2 decks of this, so I really don't care. And then I just really mix it in there. The idea is you want to get in there so much that the cards are mixed up and that you're going to get all different orientations, unlike when you're probably playing any other card game. Oh, this is definitely not the best table to do this on, but it is the table that I've got at the moment. So let's cut to this already being put together. All right, so it's put together. Here we go. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to draw out the very first card. Now you can basically flip it backwards. You can turn it over. Totally up to you. Really doesn't matter. The very first card is Ruin. This card is going to tell us how our party meets. Once I found the Ruin page, pretty much here is how this goes. Each section has an upright meaning and a reversed meaning. This card has come out in the upright meaning, and so I'm going to read through. Is it a person that's going to have my party meet, a creature, a place, a treasure, or a situation? So the first thing I'm going to have is probably, I would rather it be, let's see, a person who is renounced material attachments such as a religious aesthetic, or a creature that destroys equipment such as a rust monster or a black pudding. And then location-wise, we'll get back to that. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to have this be a rust monster. Let's go with the idea they've given us. We're going to have it be a rust monster that they will fight. Now the next card I pull out, and it is the humanoid, and this is going to dictate my location because I've chosen with my ruin card to have that be my creature. Obviously, you can flip these around as much as you want. Once I get to my humanoid section, I'm going to have a look at place, a place where diverse people live together in harmony. Great. Pretty much, it's just going to be a small town. Then I come up with a name. We're going to call it, let's say, Little Root, like from the Pokemon games, Little Root Town. And so in Little Root, my players are going to encounter a rust monster. Once I've used their backstories to get them there, that's a whole nother story. That's how we get them there. Okay, so now I've got how my party meet. Now I have got the situation that will make them become friends, essentially. The old battle a monster together tactic. Next up is going to be the journey. So the journey is a place card in particular that describes the transition from the introduction to the adventure location. So this one goes sideways. Ooh, the key. So we find the key. The key, a place through which only certain people are allowed to pass, or where a key is required. How do we go from here to the key, which is going to get us to our next thing? Pretty much the rust monster that I've set up is going to be a creature that will leave some clues behind. It's going to lead my players to a hidden compartment, a hidden area, an underground area that is hidden. There's a whole tunnel network going on underneath Little Root Town. And so that is the place that is hidden that no one really knows about. And that's going to lead us into our potential antagonist. They might start thinking it's something to do with the Underdark. Maybe the Drow are involved in what is going on here. So they begin traveling through the tunnel area that the rust monsters have created. The fourth card that's going to come out is draw a card. It's the entrance card. It's the place where this card describes the entrance to the adventure location. So remember, the key is the journey, which is taking us to the adventure location. So we've got our rust monster attacking Little Root Town that has now led to a tunneled system underneath the town, and that is taking us to the Void. Excellent. So the Void is a new place. So the Void place, a deep, well, would you look at that? A place deep underground, underwater, or in space, where little light and air are available. Already, this is now leading us into the Underdark, and I think that's fantastic. And this isn't planned. We've already got the rust monsters. I've gone with a tunnel because I know that they can dig, and then that's obviously led us to what would seem to be the Underdark. Now my players are already thinking perhaps this is a drow-related story. This could also just be one story, one shot, and what's happening is that whatever challenge they're coming across is actually trying to take over the town, a very classic adventure. Now we have to get to, this is the entrance, so we get to the entrance of the Underdark, and from there we have to come up with 3 challenges. It doesn't have to be 3, it can be more than 3 if you would like. And so what we do is we pull out 3 cards. So we go 1, the maze upside down, reversed, 2, the map, and 3, the mage. Both of these 3 are facing up. These are your 3 challenges along the way. So what do they mean? How do I build from here? Let's find the maze. The maze, but it is in its reversed orientation, and so as a challenge, it is either a creature or a trap. A creature whose behavior is unpredictable. So this is where it becomes open-ended as a DM. You have to pick some creature that is unpredictable. There's not much of a trap option. If you don't like it, obviously change it. You can even look at if it were in its upright orientation, which would be a minotaur or another creature that hunts in a maze or is imprisoned in a maze itself. Now, I'm going to go with one that is unpredictable. So I'd be looking at an aberration, for example. I'd be looking at some kind of chaotic creature. And so I'd be looking at, if it's a low-level party, something like a blink dog would be really cool because they are unpredictable. They are phasing in and out, blinking in and out. You could go with phase spiders if you want to be even trickier. Or if it's a high level party, you could go with some kind of amalgamation. You could go with an undead creature that is mindless, and so you're unsure of how it's going to move around the room. So the map itself, we have these in the upright orientation, a creature that tracks by scent. So I would be looking again at some kind of wolf creature. If we are underground in the Underdark, we could go with something like wargs. We could even look into giants, or not so much giant spiders, but you would then search for a creature that is known for tracking by scent. And finally, the mage, which is probably your mini boss at the end here. You have got obviously a creature with the abilities similar to those of a sorcerer, warlock, or wizard. If it's a low level party, I actually really like using creatures like a Nothic. I think they're really interesting. If it's a higher level one, you can pick from basically a mage itself, or you could go with a great old one, sort of like warlock. You could build something out of that. Find a creature that has magic that can cast. There's lots of different options in there, but they would be your 3 challenges. They are your main challenges. That doesn't mean that every other room is empty. The other rooms are filled with, your regular run-of-the-mill minions, but these 3 are the big sort of roadblocks. Before you pull out your treasure card, and so I'd flip it over. Treasure card is the upside down lance, but it is guarded by the guardian card, which is the celestial. So here we go. Let's go with the lance. The lance is the treasure, and it is in the upside down orientation. So a treasure celebrating the end of hostilities or the ideal of peace, or magic item intended to prevent or end conflict. So you could look at supplying Littleroot Town with enough gold that it can buy its own defenses. If you just want to go the gold route, it could be a magical lance, and you could look at the lance options that are actually in the DMG. If you're into theory crafting, you could find a magic item that is already created that doesn't actually kill but heals, or doesn't kill but puts the creatures to sleep, similar to the effects of the sleep spell, and you could have there be a saving throw involved in there, maybe a bit of damage, maybe damage that then reduces and sleeps them, just like the spell itself. There are a lot of options in there, but you cannot have this until you beat the Guardian, which is the Celestial Guardian, and in neither its upright position, sideways, you pick basically. We have got a Celestial, obviously, or other creature that has connections to the gods, or a trap that deals radiant damage. It doesn't really fit in with my story of the Underdark. It doesn't really fit in my story of Littleroot Town being taken over. So perhaps in its reversed meaning, it could be a fallen celestial or similar creature that has lost its connection to the divine. How do we build that into this whole story of Littleroot Town, starting with our rust monsters going into the Underdark, facing off against these creatures, which now might actually be influenced by the Guardian itself. So filling this out in one big go and then sort of slowly reading through and making it connect will be a really good idea. The way I would probably play this is I'd go back knowing my Guardian is a fallen celestial. Let's say that Littleroot Town was a follower of my favorite goddess, the goddess of luck, and they have desecrated her shrine. They don't believe in luck anymore. They actually believe in organization, knowledge. They believe in a different god, and they've insulted her. And slowly but surely, underneath the town itself, it's falling apart. And there is a fallen celestial here that actually wants to take over the town itself and ruin it, which Tymora perhaps maybe is not on board with. Or it is the celestial that sees them as unfaithful, and so is now coming down or rising up to actually destroy the town. A little bit of an amalgamation there, a little bit of not sure what's going on, but this is just the very beginning idea of how these cards can be used, and this is one of my favorite things, because that's one session that you could build, but going in, each of these could be a chapter. Honestly, this could be a months-long campaign. The meeting itself is chapter 1. You fill it out with some adventuring things in the town itself, where they then uncover this tunnel system that then becomes the travel section, which could go for another few sessions. There's things along the way, clues, magic items, meeting NPCs. Then you get to the entrance to the Underdark, and now you're really putting in the divine sense. Why are there celestial beings, or why are there remnants of the gods showing up so far beneath Littleroot Town? And then your 3 guardians, your 3 challenges along the way I made them all monsters, but you could then have these turn into traps themselves. The upside down maze could be a backwards maze that you need to be able to read Celestial in, so that way you can actually navigate it, but it's actually produced as a piece of text that looks abyssal or infernal. Then you've got your map. Yes, this was a creature that tracks by scent. This could be a creature that, instead of tracking by scent, actually tracks by their alignment, if you play alignments, or whether they are God-fearing or not, whether they are clerics, paladins, or they are not. Maybe they track clerics, they track paladins of other faiths. Your mage, it could be an actual fallen celestial, and then your actual guardian that is going to get this lance that will be the reward for the group. Your guardian could be something much larger. Maybe the celestial is here, and the actual celestial being here is some kind of amalgamation that even looks like this winged creature in the text itself. That is one way you could build a campaign out of this, and it could be a one session campaign, or it could be a months-long campaign. So that's pretty much how I would use these cards. And I absolutely love this product. I actually think it's one of their best ones. And it's not to say that there isn't stuff out there online already that you could do using this idea as well. I think it's just important that Wizards of the Coast are releasing things that do help the DM create a game, and they're offering something that we can use, that we can grow from, not telling us the hard and fast rules of exactly what this means, what you have to do. It's left up to interpretation because we know our players best, we know our campaign best, and that's sort of how the world of D&D is growing. It's not so much, this is exactly what happens. I don't know about you, but I personally hate it when I'm reading an adventure book and it says the players must meet this NPC and they must do this particular thing, because if they don't do this, the game is ruined. And if they choose not to do that, you have to force them to. You have to shoehorn them into it. I'm not against them making poor choices and then that coming back as a repercussion, but what I am saying is I don't thoroughly enjoy being forced to do something when it could have been left up to interpretation. They could have said you can grow from this and it can go in these directions. Here's some guidance on that. And this book, I think, is really helping in that way. Here are some cards, here are some guidelines to how to create it. Think of your players, think of the game they like, and start to build from there.